Hard to believe I'm riding Indian Larry's Chain of Mystery. I don't even know where to start. It's such a surreal feeling to ride one of Indian Larry's bikes, especially 20 years after he died. This is the Chain of Mystery, the last motorcycle Indian Larry built. He built it in the summer of 2004, leading right up to his death. And the last time he rode it was the day he died. So in the summer of 2004, we got invited to do a bike show in Hawaii. And I was over there, and Indian Larry was there, and Arlen Ness was there, and it was a really cool show. And we were there the week of the 4th of July. And that's when Larry told me about the Chain of Mystery and what he was building for the biker build-off he was doing against Mondo. Larry told me I'm building a chopper with a panhead front cylinder, a shovel head rear cylinder, and with a frame made out of chain link, and a Springer front end with a front leg made out of chain link. And I just was stunned because I never even thought or heard of anything like that before. I remember asking Larry, I'm like, you think this frame's gonna be strong enough? And he's like, yeah, it'll be fine, don't worry about it. And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, this thing's gonna kill you. You're gonna die on that thing. There's no way that the welds in that frame are gonna hold up. And as it turns out, Indian Larry was right and I was wrong. That frame did hold up. The bike made it the whole way from Pittsburgh to North Carolina during the biker build-off, and he arrived in one piece. I didn't know what the bike was going to look like. I didn't get to see it until I arrived in North Carolina the day of the show where they were filming the biker build-off reveal. I got to tell you, the Grease Monkey, Indian Larry's personal bike, has always been my favorite bike of his. But when I saw the Chain of Mystery, I was really blown away because what he pulled together in such a short period of time with his crew in Brooklyn was nothing short of mind-boggling. Let me tell you how I got to this place. I kind of knew Rick Salisbury, who owned Legends Motorcycle Museum in Springville, Utah. And I called him and asked him, would you let me make a YouTube video about Indian Larry's motorcycles that you bought at the Mecum auction? Well, Rick agreed. And then I said, well, would I be able to ride them? And he said, they haven't been ridden in 20 years. And I said, and Rick said, well, yeah, we can get him running for you. If you want to ride him, I'll let you ride him. And I couldn't believe that he said yes to it. But instead of going straight home from Sturgis, we rode down to Springville, Utah to Legends Museum. And Rick had his mechanic Red prep the Chain of Mystery for me so I could take it out for a ride. The whole ride down from Sturgis, I can't even tell you the anticipation of just knowing that I was going to see the Chain of Mystery again after over 20 years and then get to ride the motorcycle and spend time with it and really look at the detail of it really blew me away, because the day I saw it with Larry at the show was such a whirlwind. We were so crowded and mobbed by people. Everybody was so excited about the biker build-off, and the bike was such a huge hit. I didn't really get to look at it, and then the next thing you know, Larry was in the hospital, and then he ended up dying, and I really never got to take in the motorcycle. So the whole ride down to Utah from South Dakota was really one of incredible anticipation of getting to be around this motorcycle and getting to spend time with it. Because to me, it's a piece of history, and it's Larry's best work. I can't thank Rick and Red and everybody at Legends Motorcycle enough for allowing me to jump on this really epic custom chopper that Larry built at the end of his life and spend time with it and take it for a spin and have it be a part of my life in a very small way, because Indian Larry was such a big influence on myself and so many others. I really wanted to kickstart the Chain of Mystery, but the clutches were slipping on the motorcycle, and you have to kickstart the motorcycle through the clutch, and the slippage was not allowing the engine to roll over, so I had to use electric start. But who cares? I'm throwing my leg over the Chain of Mystery and I'm getting ready to take it for a ride. As I mentioned, to me, the Chain of Mystery is Indian Larry's best work. I mean, it's him at his finest. It's the refinement of his style and his vision of motorcycles. I mean, the motorcycle, when you stand back and look at it, it looks like a piece of graffiti art from a wall side of a building in Brooklyn. I mean, there's just so much going on with the colors and the paint and the engraving and the chain link and the frame and the front end and all the small details that you have to really dive deep in to see on the motorcycle. Just every element of it is touched by him and by his mind. And you see that as you walk around the motorcycle and look at it. It's just mind-boggling. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but when you look at it, it's like looking through a kaleidoscope. There's just so many colors, so many textures, so much going on. Your eye doesn't know which way to look. You're drawn from one piece to another piece, and you go back to something we were looking at a few minutes ago. There's just so much going on. It really overwhelms your mind. And this is probably the first motorcycle that I've ever looked at that's done that to me. I mean, I've seen some of Arlen Ness's stuff from the 70s and 80s, and it was really impressive, and some of Ron Finch's stuff. But when you look at this motorcycle, it overwhelms you when you look at it. There's just so much going on. And I think Larry mastered what he was doing in building the Chain of Mystery. Larry told me several times how much he just really loved asymmetry, and he loved the asymmetry of the Harley Davidson because both exhaust pipes went out one side traditionally. But if you look at what he's done here with the pan head on the front cylinder and the shovel head on the rear cylinder and the S&S Super B carburetor on the rear cylinder and the S&S L model on the front cylinder, I mean, he really pushed that asymmetry to the limit with this motorcycle. I mean, there's just so much going on here at once. It's a serious motorcycle, but it's got a cartoon element to it that really, I think, like a cartoon circus element to it that really is a part of Larry's character and who he was, and he lays that down in a motorcycle here that's so business oriented. I mean, there's nothing on the bike that doesn't belong here, except all the embellishments that make it beautiful, like the Robert Pradke paint that's just exceptional, and the C.J. Allen engraving. But the mechanicalness of it, as Larry would say, is just superb. I mean, he really did an amazing job with this motorcycle, and I can't even express to you in words what a joy it is to be around it and to ride it and to be able to share with you my experience with it, because most of you won't get this close to it. Tell you about riding the Chain of Mystery. The bike has no front brake. It's suicide clutch, suicide shift, so you have to clutch with your foot and shift with the left hand. So that means whenever you need to stop or slow down, you have to use your right foot to activate the rear brake, which is the only brake you have. And that means you can't use your left foot for anything but for clutching, so you can't put your left foot down, so it's a lot of motorcycle to ride. And then there's this. Both carburetors stick out the right side of the bike really far, and especially the rear carburetor wants to suck your pants leg in when it's running, so you have to keep your leg out and away from it. And then when you want to brake, you have to lift your leg up over the rear carburetor and put your knee between the V of the front and rear carburetors to be able to access the brake. So you got to be paying attention. It's a lot of motorcycle to ride, like I said, but that's Indian Larry. Let me tell you a little bit about what it's like to ride an Indian Larry chopper, especially a Chain of Mystery. You know, Larry had a pretty basic formula. He ran an 18-inch wheel in the rear, a 21-inch wheel up front, 2 inches of stretch in the frame, and about 30.5 degrees of rake is what he called it. So it's a pretty basic setup, and it's really light and nimble, handles pretty good. You could kind of feel the weight of the chain frame on this bike a little bit more. It definitely had a little bit of a heavier feel to it, but had plenty of power. Larry had built an 88 cubic inch engine for this bike, and it really pulled hard. It had really surprising power for what it was. You know, I kind of wondered how it was going to run with the twin carburetors. It was really responsive. Thing used a lot of fuel, but you could tell it was making a lot of horsepower. Very fun to ride. I got to ride quite a few miles on it, as you can see here from this footage, and it was just really, really a great bike to ride once you got used to getting your foot around the carburetors. That was kind of the biggest issue, was getting your right leg around the carburetor for the brakes, and also keeping it out of that rear intake, because that wanted to suck your paint leg in, like I told you before. We had just come from Sturgis. I've been riding an 80 cubic inch Evo with cam and a carburetor and some head work and high compression pistons, so I was making some good horsepower. It really felt like this motorcycle was making more horsepower than my Softail was, and definitely a lot lighter than the Softail. So, you know, it was a totally different riding experience. And of course, you're riding on a rigid frame, which I absolutely love. That's how I got started. My first bike was a 1950 Panhead with a rigid frame and a Springer front end, and that's always kind of been the look and the feel for me. But I'd ridden one on Larry's bikes before, so I kind of knew what to expect and knew how it would feel. But this thing definitely felt really refined, really well balanced. I wish I could have been riding it in Sturgis and some of those really twisted canyon roads up there. You know, it would have been really great. Where we were in Utah riding this day, I mean, the weather was beautiful. You can see the backdrop's just absolutely gorgeous with the mountains in the background. It was really flat and straight down there, so I didn't get to really stick in any hard turns or anything like that and see how it handled like Larry would have been experiencing it on the ride from Pittsburgh to North Carolina. But regardless, it was a great day of riding. We really enjoyed riding it, and to be riding the bike and feeling the vibrations and then look down and see what's underneath me. You know, I'm riding Indian Larry's Chain of Mystery. His, definitely Larry's masterpiece, and probably one of the greatest choppers ever built. It was really a cool feeling to look down and see that, and then look back up and look at the beautiful scenery around me, and I just can't thank Rick and Legends enough for letting me do this. So let me recommend this to you. If you're anywhere in the Utah area, you got to go to Legends. I mean, here's the Rat Fink that Indy Larry built against Paul Yaffe in the very first biker build-off he did. And then here's the Wild Child that Larry built in the build-off against me. And those bikes are at the museum, along with the Grease Monkey, which was Larry's personal bike, and the Chain of Mystery. So I definitely recommend you go in and take a look.